Hey guys, this is Davor from Tennis Haus. Today we will talk about how to hit massive forehands or how to create power on the forehands. And it's not an easy topic because in my opinion you have to be able to be consistent first and know what you do before you start hitting hard. But there are certain things if you want to hit very fast forehands you have to keep in mind in order to be successful. If you have 5 to 10 minutes and you want to start to hit the ball a little bit faster and not just being able to push the forehand back, this is the video for you guys. So first of all, as well, if you like what we do, please subscribe, turn the notifications button on, share the video, everything you can do to help the channel, that will be highly appreciated. And let's get straight to it. So there are a lot of factors that play in to hit a fast forehand, and I always like to start with one thing everybody can do, and that's like the big muscle groups, which are the legs, right? The hips, the trunk, like everything moving upwards into the hand where you're going to release the energy, right? So we start always from the ground off. And like Rick Macy liked to say, I took that from him because I like that. He says the big muscles run the show, and that's it's correct. So you can hit fast out of the upper body only, but the problem is you're going to hurt parts of your muscles, and you're gonna it's not good for you to just use the upper body. So if you're one of the guys that just slams the ball like this, you're gonna hurt your shoulder, you're gonna have injuries. There's no doubt about it, because the most efficient players, they work in the unit with their whole body. So it starts with the legs, the big muscle groups. So good loading is important, guys. If you want to create power, you need to make sure that you load it. Let's say I'm in a semi-open stance, you need to load your legs really good. And there's a fine line between overloading and not loading at all. So if you like loading too low, then you can't shoot out explosively. It's like a basketball player that wants to dunk. If you want to have someone dunk and you put them down in this position and they're overloading, they can't get up anymore. Or if they just don't load at all almost, you can't shoot up. It's a fine line between the stored energy and the release of the stored energy. So it's about something like this: load and coming out. It's like how fast loading, how fast you shoot out. Alright, so that moment of release is so important. What happens actually now is, when you look at the slow motion of a forehand, is when you are loading here and you start to explode, the hip snaps in, and once the hip snaps in, your racket falls into the leg position here, and then you go and hit. So how do you train that? It's all about timing. So tennis is a sport. If you want to hit faster, you can use your big muscle groups as much as you want to. If you do not time the shot correctly, you will not control and hit the ball fast. So in the best case scenario, when the ball is coming, you get into this position right before the ball bounces, and then you shoot out right after that. So when the ball is here, load, unload, load, unload, load, unload. So now you see the ball is balancing up. I'm in this position, and then I'm shooting out and I hit it. Very crucial to have a fast forehand is the big muscles, the loading, and in that the timing obviously as well. So problem number 2, if you want to hit the ball hard, is many guys especially, we tend to squeeze the racket too much and hit like caveman and just hit that ball out of the body, not that there's no connection. Power comes from the elasticity of your body. So when you coil good, you have a good chance to release and hit the ball hard, right? If you load not too long and you let it go, you have a good chance to hit out. Even if you coil and you squeeze too much, you're not going to be able to release. Remember, I always say the racket is your prolongation of your hand. So if you turned and you start initiate, you come out, you start initiate the forward swing. Now if you squeeze tight here, the racket head is not going to work for you. I always call that, let the racket head work for you. So once you're here and you unload, let the racket go and work for you. You will feel automatically, if you follow through a little bit longer, there's a stop when you finish the shot then. And so don't be tight when you hit. In the perfect world, I like to say, is if 10 is squeezing as much as you can and 0 is dropping the racket, being as loose as you can, hold the racket on 2.5. It's going to be a completely new story. Obviously the first ball is going to sail out. Why? Because what is it if you lose at the beginning, you do automatically. When you lose, you're not following through and you kind of slap the ball. So you have to make sure when you start being loose that you as well, after you contact the ball, that you're not just slapping and let the forearm work. It's your whole arm that still goes around and you finish up. So when you lose, do not slap, don't slap the ball, don't slap the ball. You lose here, you have to be loose, your wrist snaps, but your whole arm follows through. If your whole arm goes through, you can control that ball pretty good. So, being said, when you lose, what can you do to start to be loose and relaxed? So obviously the breathing is important. Make sure that you don't forget to breathe in and breathe out slowly, calm down, and then when you hit with someone, let's say you're starting to prepare for a match and you're always tight. So take a finger off, the pinky finger of your racket, and rally forehands with your partner or your opponent. Then take the other finger off, and you have 2 fingers that are off, and you just rally with it. And you're going to see how much the racket head is going to start to do the work for you. And then, last thing is you take 3 fingers off, and you'll be surprised how good you can rally with having only 2 fingers on the racket. And that's one of the most successful drills to program your hand and tell yourself that you do not have to squeeze the racket too much. So rally with someone, hit on a ball machine, and take always 2 to 3 fingers off and let the racket, I want you to take this today from this lesson, feel like there's like a pound weight on the racket head, and let the racket head pull you out and hit. That is so important. And then when you lose, that you do not slap the ball. Make sure when you lose, and not just the forearm, the whole arm still follows through and hits through the ball. So that was point number 2, right? So the big muscles run the show, number 1. Number 2 is being very relaxed and loose. And number 3 is that you need to know where the optimum contact point is for the release. So when you hit a forehand and you contact every ball here, you cannot hit the ball hard. It doesn't work. Because the energy here, so you're out here, you have acceleration phase and the legs explode. All that energy needs a little bit to be transferred to the maximum power, which is then at the contact point. And then after that, you need to let the racket head work and go around. So to get to that point, in order for you getting there, you need to make sure that your contact point is about a foot in front of you. But be careful saying that now as a coach. You need to make sure as well that you have to know that if you have an Eastern grip on the forehand, that your contact probably will be right here, if you see that, right? With the Eastern forehand grip, it's about a foot in front of me, right here, and that's the perfect point of contact, and then you just follow through. If you here, remember, you can create pace. So if you're on a semi-Western grip, your contact might be a tiny bit closer to you, right here. So we were talking about right here, and if you're on a full Western, which is down here, you're going to be right even closer. So as more you go around the racket with your grip, as closer the contact point will be to you. That's very important to know, because you know, when I see a lot of people talking about you have to hit the ball diagonal in front of you, 45 degree, way there in front of you, and then you have a player with the Western grip and they try it out and they're like, oh, that doesn't work, I can't get there. Why is that? Because the grip determines how far your contact point is going to be out in front of you. And talking about that, what is really important as well is that if you have an Eastern grip and your contact is right in front of you, you have it easier to manipulate the ball here. Use the wrist at contact when you follow through. So you use the wrist and you follow through at the same time. And if you have a Western grip, then you're going to have a little bit more action from the legs. You need to, because your contact is close, and you're going to have a little bit more angular momentum. Because with the Eastern grip, you have linear momentum and angular, and like almost like balanced out. And if you have a Western grip, the problem is when you have a Western grip, you go out, you have a little extension, linear, but mostly is then going around and keeping the ball in. So it's very important that you are aware of where the contact point is going to be, and that when you use your more of a grip, that you're going to have a little bit more angular momentum on the shots. Because if you're not aware of that, you're going to be in trouble. And the last thing I want to mention as well is, like as I said, being loose, that when you are at the contact point, that you feel that moment. I call it, like, if you need to make sure that you pull the trigger here, and manipulate the ball is only possible if you're in front. So if you hit in front, feel that moment a little bit, and when you hit the ball, have the index finger a little bit spread from the middle finger, because if you have with hands around like this here, you're not going to be able to feel the ball. It's like more like a slapping forehand. So if you separate the index finger from the middle finger a little bit, you're going to be able to feel the ball way better and manipulate the ball way better in front of you. So that's a great tip for you guys to contact and hit the ball fast. So recapping, like, the big muscles run the show. That's how you create the main power. The second thing is on the forehand that you lose, because if you squeeze the racket too much, you cannot create any power, right? And the contact point is crucial, because if the contact point is too close to you, you cannot transfer the energy properly towards the point of contact, right? So it's all called a kinetic chain. We start from the legs, and every part has to play in. If one part is off, your pace is going to be off. So that's the timing part of it, right? So you have to coordinate everything perfectly in order to hit a great shot. So keeping that in mind, I hope that helps you a little bit to hit the ball. And one more thing I want to let out and I understand when you're a beginner player or a rec player, having the confidence to drive through, and as I said, not just slap the ball, follow through. There's one great tip on the forehand that helped many players, is when you turn here, you go down with the racket. So when you start to get forward with the shot, so we have the acceleration when the butt cap points forward, and then the ending, the butt cap points forward. Those two I want you to keep today in mind, because like I said earlier, if the starting point is correct and the finish correct, the middle part takes care of itself. So you have a way of acceleration, then the butt cap starts to lead out, and you finish with the butt cap. Having that all said, if you like what we do, please subscribe, turn the notifications button on, share the video with some friends, as that's the best way to support the channel. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to shoot the next video on how to create more topspin right now. So thanks guys for your time.